Hello, my name is Bob Hammond. I'm Kennewick City Manager, and I'm here today with Marie Mosley. Marie is our Executive Director of Support Services for the city, and we'd like to talk with you today about the cost of household services. Some of the things, the purpose we have today is to help people understand just where their tax dollars really go. We'd like to demonstrate that really a small portion of the taxes that Kennewick citizens pay actually go to the city. I'd like to talk a little bit about what we do with those taxes so that people understand where their tax dollars go, what services they're actually buying. And then along the way, we're hoping that we can pass on a little bit about what the business of the city is. You know, oftentimes we talk to citizens about particular things that are of interest to them. But we don't often talk about the whole comprehensive business that we do. And, you know, that literally amounts to hundreds of independent services that we're doing on a daily basis with the city. So, Marie, maybe a good place to start is to talk with the folks about what, let's just talk a little bit about where do our taxes come from, or our revenues come from for the city, what makes up the different revenues. Maybe get into a little bit about what does it cost a household in the city to buy city services.
Great, Bob. Thank you. First of all, one of our, I'm going to talk about the top three taxes that we have at the city. And I'm going to start with property taxes. Property taxes is really our third largest revenue source for the city, which is kind of a little unusual. It's usually one of the top revenue sources. We bring in about $10 million annually in property taxes. That's about 10% of our revenue source. And just to kind of give you an idea, a resident in the city pays about $11.38, at least in 2009 they did, per $1,000 of assessed valuation in property taxes. And of that $11.38 per $1,000 of assessed valuation, it equates to, for somebody who has about a $200,000 home, it equates to about $2,300 annually. And what we've done is we kind of try to depict this through a dollar bill. Where does $1, one of those $2,300, where does that go? And $1 for the city, of every dollar that's paid in property taxes, 21 cents comes back to the city. The largest piece of that dollar goes to the schools, about 42 cents, and then the state gets another 17 cents, the county gets another 12 cents, and then there's the port and the hospital district, the library, and that's another 8 cents. So that's where the dollar goes. So for that average household of $200,000, that $2,300, about $470 comes back to the city in property taxes. Another large revenue source, actually the largest revenue source in the city of Kennewick, is sales taxes. And just to give you an idea, about 15% of our general fund revenues, or about $15 million, is made up of sales tax revenues. And another way that we like to kind of describe where that goes is, let's say you purchase a car for about $39,600. In the city of Kennewick, you purchased it in the city limits, we pay 8.3% in sales tax. That 8.3% on that $39,000 purchase amounts to about $3,300. Now the city doesn't, a lot of misconception is that the city gets that entire $3,300. That's really not the case. The largest portion goes to the state. About $2,600 of that $3,300 goes to the state. The city actually gets about $340 of that $3,300. Our other large revenue source is utility taxes. That's our second largest revenue source, and it's a tax that we have on utilities. It ranges from 7% to 8.5%, and then we've just recently implemented an additional 6.5% on our water and sewer utility that helps pay for our police and fire retiree medical portion. So that's up to about 13.5% now on water and sewer. So To give you an idea, what we've done is we've taken the total, we've tried to come up with an average household. And we're assuming a 4-person household, about a $200,000 home, the average adjusted gross income being about $75,000. And from that, we've said, what does an average citizen pay to the city? So we've looked at property taxes, our utility taxes, the entertainment taxes. We have an admissions tax in the city. When you go to watch a movie, it's 5% and it comes back to the city. There's a gambling tax. So we just kind of took a look at an average family and how much their taxes were, and looked at those assumptions for property sales, utility, gambling, admissions, and it amounts to about $165 a month that is paid by a citizen to the City of Kennewick.
Now, Marie, okay, so you talked about the 3 major taxes, and just a couple of questions on that. So we're very dependent on sales taxes. Is that true?
That is the largest source, yes.
Yes, compared to a lot of other cities, their property taxes, aren't they oftentimes the largest source?
That's very true. And you bring up a very good point, because sales tax is a much more volatile revenue source than property tax. It's a very stable revenue source. So that we are very reliant on sales tax and the volatility that's in sales tax.
In fact, to get a little bit off point, I think we've felt some vulnerabilities just in consumerism and how people have, especially big purchase items, on our sales tax. Haven't we? I think we projected almost $1.5 million more than we've had in this biennium, or that we project now for our biennium. So that really does show, I think, how dependent we are on that sales tax. And you know, oftentimes we talk about the cost of housing being a very important part of the quality of life and people here, but for people here. But I think we forget at times that it's also a very important source of income for us. So
that's
yes.
Exactly.
Now, when you were talking about that $165 a month, would that also include some of these other fees? Like, you know, I know a big fee in our family is our water sewer bill.
Yes.
And so you're talking about all revenues, basically, that we calculate for that average household, amounting to that $165 a month.
That's a very good point. It's not just the tax revenues that come in, but it's all revenues. It's revenues for services as well, like your water sewer. And Bob, I think you were going to talk a little bit about what that 165 actually pays for in services.
Yes, and I appreciate that. I've worked for the city and you have a long time too, and I've been here over 20 years, and it always seems like we have these dialogues with citizens when there's some issues, and I remember once when there was a snowstorm, and we weren't able to plow the residential streets to the degree we wanted to, and I'll never forget a lady calling me up, and I guess respectfully from her point of view was reminding me that she'd paid taxes for 10 years and or more at the city, and she had never gotten anything for them, and she wanted some service on the snow.